Hello, this is Pastor James from Redemption Church Chester. I want to welcome you again with this three-part series on depression. I covered the first part, part one, on depression. I summarized biblically the story of Elijah and the struggle he had, the victory he had first, the high victory of killing the prophets of Baal, and then the lows of running from Jezebel, who threatened his life, and he hit a wall, emotional wall of depression that he literally ran out of gas emotionally. He crashed and burned and emotionally so despondent that he began complaining that nobody serving the Lord but him. He's the only prophet remaining. High, low. And that first video, please address that first video, because that talks about a biblical depiction of the fact that everybody has their day. But we've got to address this issue because depression is one of the leading mental health issues in the nation. Affects everybody. And as Christians, you're not immune to it. And especially address men's group, but it literally applies to everybody. And we talked about a daily lifestyle commitment to thanking God and praising God as a lifestyle. We talked about that in the last video. And also taking a sabbatical. Sometimes you have to take a spiritual and emotional sabbatical periodically because you have to walk away from the battle. You have to have time to refresh yourself emotionally. And if you do not take the time to self-care, you will implode. So let's get into today's lesson further. Part two, this is part two. Depression is defined clinically as anger turned inward. Say it again. Depression is anger turned inward. Life stress, majority of depression is triggered by life stresses and painful events. It's a trigger, not causes it, it's a trigger. Whether we choose to respond in a healthy way or in an unhealthy way is usually within our control unless the stress or massive and traumatic. Let's say that again. Whether we choose to respond to it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way, that's in our control. That's a hard pill to swallow unless it's triggered by a major traumatic event, a massive stressful event, like burning down, a house being burnt down, someone dying in the family, something like that. But the key thing is, you must choose when you respond. For example, you must choose to make sure you respond to anger in the proper way. Let's deal with anger. That's a major problem with men. One of the issues I know before coming into spiritual health, one of the ways most men, even myself, dealt with issues, we stuffed, and the only response that we had was anger. It came out sideways. We responded in anger, as the only emotion we really respond in was anger. It comes out sideways. When a person suppresses their issues without talking it through, that is serious. Most men don't talk. We say that again. Most men don't talk. We have learned, as even depending on the era you grew up in, don't say nothing, stuff it, be a man, don't say nothing. Stuff it. Don't cry. But the problem here is with anyone, the more you stuff, eventually it's going to explode like a volcano. It's going to come out one way or the other. And most of the time it comes out sideways as anger. Men are emotionally immature in that area because culture does not value men who don't stuff it, don't say nothing. Hey, Dylan, let me give you a 911. It's okay for a man to cry. There are times when you got to get by yourself Go before God and just cry. And says, God, I'm going through a hard time. And just cry before the Lord. You're not less of a man because you cry. Crying releases you from the pain. Crying is a release. That when you come before God and cry and let him know how you're feeling, because he knows anyway, whether you tell him or not, there is a release. And we've got to deal with our anger, because the Bible says, don't let the sun go down when you're angry. Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and sin not. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Let's say that again. Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Anger is a normal response. People are going to get angry. That's true. But the problem is, don't stay angry. Especially when you're married. If you're angry with your spouse for some reason, you stay up all night until you resolve it before. Don't go to bed angry with your spouse. The Bible wants you to deal with it before you, in the night. Even if you got to stay up all night, it's best that you deal with it, resolve it, because heaven forbid you go to bed angry and something happens the next day where one of you die. And you will regret it the rest of your life that you didn't say I was sorry over something that wasn't all that. But for pride, I'm not going to say I'm sorry. But if something happens the next day and you didn't make it right, you're going to have a hard time living it down and dealing with the guilt of that. Let's get us a few scriptures. Let's turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. So the issue here is, if you get angry, anger's normal, then get over yourself. Deal with it, let it go. Don't see, most people do this with anger. They sit in it for days and get angry and angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier, and it goes on from a week to 2 weeks to a month. Folks, you can't stay angry at that person for 2 or 3 months. I know people angry with people for years. You've got to let it go, because anger is like a cancer. The longer it stays in your heart, the more it begins to eat away on the insides of you. Sustained anger is unhealthy. Let's look at some dealing with anger, dealing with depression. You have to guard what you're thinking. Casting down vain imagination, 2 Corinthians chapter 10. You have to guard what you think. One of the solutions we're dealing with here is you can't control it, your depression, to this degree. Let me qualify this. Let me qualify depression. I have to qualify this. I'm both a pastor, and I'm medically and scientifically trained. I have a degree in biology with a lot of graduate work in biomedical courses. So let's break it down. Depression. Depression can be biochemical, meaning that certain people, the biochemistry is off, and they have to take medication. I'm not talking about this. That's what I want to qualify that. Some people have to take medicine because biochemically they're off, and only medicine brings them back to equilibrium. That's organic. They can't control that. They need medicine. All the counsel in the world is not going to help. They can't control it. That's one area of depression. Second area is spiritual. There's something called a spirit of heaviness. This is the pastoral part of it. If you study the scriptures, you'll realize there are demonic forces out there. You may not believe it. Some people don't believe there's a devil. Some people don't believe there are demons. I hate to give you 911 on this. There are spiritual forces that you don't see that affect your emotional state. I'll give you an example. Spirit of lust, perversion. Spirit of fear. These are literal spirits that come in and affect you. Depression. The Bible calls it spirit of heaviness. A spirit of heaviness. a literal spirit that can affect your emotional state where you walk around depressed. And that has to be cast out. That has to be, you have to recognize the spiritual and attack it spiritually. And the other thing is how you manage your stress. Painful, stressful events can trigger depression, like I said. However, like I said, it's how you respond to it. You have to check yourself and say, okay, this is not good, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to dwell on it. One of the things I've learned personally was in my issue of depression, I had to understand that if I wallow in my depression, it gets worse and worse. If you begin to embrace it as a friend, it gets worse and worse. It's like a falling off a cliff. If you do not address it, you'll fall deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and the longer you stay in it, the deeper you get. And I want to go into this part of it, the spiritual part, the part you can't control. Two things you can do. Control your thinking and bind that spirit of depression. Let's talk about casting down vain imaginations. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 through 5. Now let's get something straight about the Bible. The Bible's not psychology. The Bible deals with the issues of the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions. It constantly talks about the heart. Where's your heart? It deals with the way you feel and the way you think, whether you call it psychology or not. God deals with your thought life. God deals with your heart. How are you feeling on the inside? How do you think? Let's not get it twisted. God is concerned about your emotional health. Let's get into 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 through 5. For weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bring into what captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. That's your responsibility. That is a major responsibility about non-clinical depression. Things happen, that's life. But we have to realize something happened, deal with it, grieve, but don't pet it, let it go. Deal with it, like my mother used to say, okay, Jim, this happened to you. I'll let you stoop on your so pity for a while, but in about half hour, get over it. Get over it. Because if you entertain these vain imaginations, they grab hold to your heart and you begin to create a habitation for that depression, and you begin to sit emotionally in those feelings. And they begin to cloud the way you see things in the world. It actually affects your physical health. You know that? If you get depressed to a point, it affects your heart rate. It affects your breathing rate. It affects your overall health. You can't get sick by depression. You have to understand non-clinical depression. You have to, it's your responsibility to take control of your thought life. You have to cast down vain imaginations. That you have to do that. God doesn't come down to heaven and say, okay, Jim, John, I know you had a bad day, you're stressed out, but I think you should not dwell on it. No, God's going to tell you in His Word. God's going to tell you in His Word. Let me tell you another example of this. I work in New York. I knew a policeman who worked in the Bronx, in one of the worst areas of the Bronx. In the beginning of being a policeman, the stress of working in Bronx, being a drug enforcement cop, undercover cop, it was killing his marriage because he brings that trauma and the stress of that job, he would bring it home. Him bringing that stress from home, he dwelled in that stress. He made everybody miserable in his home because he was stressed out from seeing the worst of humanity, the worst of humanity. It affected his relationship with his kids and relationship with his wife, because how can you turn off those images that you've seen, especially undercover? You go 2 or 3 days undercover, and then you have days off. But him and his wife went to therapy, and the therapist told him, This is what you got to do. When you come over the White Stone Bridge, you leave all the trauma and stress on that side of the bridge. So when you come over on this side of the bridge, coming back to Long Island, the door is shut. You don't even think about it again. Come into your home and give your wife and your kids the best version of you. Because that's always going to wait for you when you go back to work. Because if you don't know how to shut the door and separate the really bad things of your life from the good things in your life, where it does not bleed together. It can't bleed together. It has to be a shut door that says, I'm coming out of work from all the stress and strain of this horrible job, the worst of humanity, but I've gone over the White Stone Bridge. I shut the door. So when I come home and see my beautiful wife, all I think about is her and my lovely children. They will get the best dad, not the dad who's drained and tired and fatigued and wearied and just doesn't want to talk. It's not fair to them that they've got to get the worst of you. So casting down vain imaginations is so important. So important. Later on, I'm going to talk about that self-talk thing. But right now, vain imagination is all the things that happen to you, all those thoughts that come in. You have to have a switch to turn it off and think about other things. Let's talk about renewing your mind. Turn to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12. Verse 2. Romans chapter 12, verse 2, King James Version. It says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed or changed by the what? Renewing of your mind. Renewing of your mind. That you may prove what is good, acceptable, and the perfect will of God. You must renew your mind. After casting down vain imaginations, then you got to renew your mind and think on things that are pure, just, and holy of a good report. Now you got to think about the good things. When you come home, think about your lovely wife and your precious children. How blessed you are to have a beautiful family. How blessed you are to be loved by someone. How blessed you are to have a beautiful home. How blessed you are to have a sanctuary where you could have a piece of heaven. You must renew your mind. You must first cast down vain imaginations. And second, you must renew your mind daily. Renew your mind. Because your mind is like a tape recorder or MP3 player now, where it plays the same nonsense over and over and over. And many people do this. They think on negative things, go to bed thinking about negative things, and in their dreams, they have bad dreams of negative things. It's constantly running, subconsciously and consciously. And what happens here is, the Bible says, so as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. People, if you begin to think on these negative things and begin to profess them with your mouth, guess what? You're prophesying negative things to come into your space. If you think about and put verbal confirmation of what you're feeling, negative feelings, you will attract negative things towards you. Negative experiences. Things begin to happen to you that should not happen. Words have power. There's life and death in the power of the tongue. Life and death in the power of the tongue. You can speak life over yourself, or you can speak death over yourself. If you don't renew your mind, your conversation reflects what your heart's full of. The heart speaks. The mouth speaks what the heart has. You've got to understand that your responsibility is to control the way you're thinking and what you're saying. Because this affects your destiny. Whether it's positive affirmation or negative affirmations. If you put these things out there, it's like a boomerang. It will come back one way or another. And as Christians, we have to understand that we cannot allow ourselves to have pity parties, extended pity parties. What do I mean by that? Let me be balanced. There will be times when we are hurt, angry, and frustrated. Yes, that will happen. I'm saying is this: don't dwell in it. Don't spend no more than a day. If you have to do that, no more than a day. End it. Feel the pain. Get frustration. Say something. Deal with it. Address it. And then let it go. Don't be people, get mad at people, don't say nothing to it. Now, let me tell you something too, it's about depression. Sometimes you have to have the courage enough to confront the person who's hurting you and let them know, I didn't appreciate what you said. It hurt my feelings, I'm angry with you, and I'm gonna tell you why I feel this way. And the person may realize, I didn't realize I said that hurt your feelings. It wasn't directed at you, but I'm sorry. But if you don't confront it, you will stuff those feelings and that anger, and it gets bigger, bigger, and bigger. And then after you see that person, you get a knot in your stomach, and you curse them out in your head anyway. God sees you cursing in your head. God sees that. There's nothing wrong with confronting people that hurt you. Many people by mistake. And let them know. May we talk for a second? What you said before, it hurt my feelings, and I have aught against you. It really ticked me off. What do you mean by that? Let the person explain themselves, and many times it's a misunderstanding. And many times they didn't realize that they did not engage their brain when they were speaking. They put their foot in their mouth. Proverbs 17, let's deal with the attitude to Proverbs 17. Proverbs 17:22. Here we go. This is something with the hard attitude, is we have to have a attitude of joy and thanksgiving. Your attitude. It says here, a merry heart does good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. A merry heart does good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bone. Ask God for the gift of laughter. You'll be surprised. This is something I've got to work on myself. You've got to realize something. If you do not realize the joy of the Lord is your strength, not just saying it, it's literally a weapon and one of your therapeutic tools in the Bible. It's something you got to go, if you're a serious person like me, you got to go before God. Lord, I pray for the gift of laughter. Because I'm too serious. Everything bothers me. Everything I take to the heart. Father God, I pray to be lighthearted. Because it ain't that bad. Life isn't that bad. Things happen. But help me adjust my attitude. Give me the spirit of laughter that I could address life with a light heart. Even though these things happen, I can let it go. When things happen, I can let life, negative things of life, roll off my back like water rolling off a duck's back. I can't allow the storms of life to come to my heart. Help me, God, to deal with the fact, to realize that you're in control. Even though these things happen, you see the beginning from the end. And I need you to give me the gift of laughter that I could laugh at life and realize this too shall pass. Me and you with that. Even though my mother told me a long time ago, even though you're going through this right now, Jimmy, this too shall pass. And as I end this second section of part two, I want to summarize this, is non-clinical depression. You have to take control of what you're thinking, casting down vain imaginations, renewing your mind, and you have to ask God for the gift of laughter so you don't take life so serious. And I'm one of those people. I'm overachiever, type A personality, everything's serious. And it's ruined my life personally because I've When I should have laughed, I was serious all the time. And people couldn't enjoy my company because I was always trying to achieve something, trying to get something done. And sometimes you just got to smell the coffee, smell the roses, and enjoy life. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey. Don't rush to your destination. Enjoy your journey with laughter.